Welcome back to all of you to Open Door Center for Spiritual Living. It is the third Sunday of the month, and in keeping with a premise or a process that we set the first couple of weeks that we were here in services together back in May, the third Sunday is Spiritual Practice Sunday. It is the Sunday when we roll up our sleeves and we put on our boogie shoes and we talk about what really changes our lives. Yeah, and we know, we get it here, that spiritual practice is that thing that kind of puts the wind in our wings, under our wings. It is the thing that empowers us. It starts the engine. It's the gas for the motor. So it's a really powerful thing. It's something that realistically we want to be engaging in every day. And the title of my talk is called The Four Boyfriends. So let's just see what we can tell you today about the four boyfriends. I want to start out today with a little story. And many of you might think the name, The Four Boyfriends, oh my gosh, she's going to talk about her past. She is not going to talk about her past today, so there, okay? But I did think the picture was really cool. You can figure out which boyfriend is which, you know, as we go through this. So the story goes that there was a girl, and the girl had four boyfriends. And we're going to talk about what each of those boyfriends kind of is and was to that young lady. Now the fourth boyfriend was the one that she loved the most. This guy was drop dead gorgeous, and he just made her little heart and everything else sing. And she liked to fill his life with good. She liked to give to him. She liked to adorn him with beautiful robes and make sure that he had the finest of delicacies to eat. She just loved him the most. She thought that, that the sun just rose in this guy. And then there was the third boyfriend. And she really liked him too. She thought he was pretty hot stuff. She liked to take him on her arm, and she would go around the neighboring communities and kingdoms and say, "This is my boyfriend," and show him off. Just go, "Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he wonderful?" And his life too was made rich and beautiful by her presence. She gave him things. She surrounded him with comfort and happiness. She just loved him. She thought he was great too. If she couldn't find boyfriend number 4, she would go to boyfriend number 3. Well, and then there was boyfriend number 2. And boyfriend number 2, he was a very special guy, because when this woman had issues, she would go to him and be with him, and he was her confidant. He was her wisdom keeper. She would go and say, "Speak to me the truths I need to hear. I don't know what to do with my kingdom or how to order my life." And he always had time for her. He always made a space for her and helped her and was willing to be with her. And she loved him a lot too. If she couldn't find number 4 and she couldn't find number 3, or she had a big issue in life, she'd go to boyfriend number 2. Now that brings us to boyfriend number 1. And boyfriend number 1, she just kind of didn't pay too much attention to this guy. She just didn't, it's like nothing special in her eyes. She really didn't love him. She had some positive regard for him, but, it was nothing special. She wouldn't have, jumped overboard to fish him out of the deep blue sea if he was, drowning or something. And yet, he was the one that always gave to her. He was the one who was kind of in the background, making sure that her kingdom was well ordered, and her lawns were manicured, and her life was going well. He made sure that everything was taken care of and smoothed over, that she was comfortable in life, that her kingdoms continued to flourish and expand. So 4 boyfriends. Well, one day this girl, she got really sick. And she was in her bed, in her castle, in her beautiful home, and her riches, and all her, what do they call them, ladies in waiting and maids were attending to her, and they called in the shamans, and they called in the medical guys, the medicine men, and they all looked at her and poked and prodded, and then they went off and consulted, and they said, we can't do anything. You're going to go, so get ready. And she was all aghast. She was just, oh God, no, I can't leave. Who will go with me? Who will walk with me through this journey? And so she arose from her bed and she went out and she went to the fourth boyfriend and she said to him, now remember, this is the one she loved the most. This is the most beautiful boyfriend that she had. This is the one whose life she made so easy and perfect through all her riches. She just gave and gave to him. And she went to him and she said, my beloved, I'm going to die soon. There is nothing they can do. I am afraid. Will you walk with me through this experience? Will you be with me and go with me to the other side? And that dude, he just looked at her and he said, sister, I'm out of here. And he just left. And her heart was crushed. She was just broken that he wasn't going to help her. And then she thought, well, I'll go to my third boyfriend. I'll go to boyfriend number 3. She went to him and she said, my beloved, I care for you deeply. They have told me I have just a short while to live. Will you come with me on this journey into death? Will you accompany me? And he backed up a minute and he looked at her and he said, well, you know, I kind of got this other chick on the side. I don't think so. You know, it's been nice, but you know, I'm not giving it all up for you. Bye. And he took off too. And she was like, what? You know, both of you. Her heart was crushed again. So she went to boyfriend number 2. Now remember, this is the one who had been kind of almost a soulmate. He held all her heart's information, all her secrets. He had been her confidant for years. And she said to him, dearly loved one, I'm going to make my transition. Will you come with me? Will you be with me? Will you go to the other side? Well, this guy, he had pretty good boundaries. And he said, you know, I love you. And I can walk with you right up to that final step. But I cannot cross into the other world with you. You'll just have to do that on your own. I can't live your life or move through death for you. You're on your own. But I'll hold your hand. I love you. I really care about you. Well, that wasn't what she wanted. You know, she wanted somebody to do this thing for her. How often in life do we look at whatever task is before us and go, hey, come here, you know, and call in the reserves. And that's great. It's always wonderful to get support, isn't it? It's also wonderful to be surrounded by people like the second boyfriend who recognize what is and is not theirs to do for us. You know, when someone does everything for us, what do? They literally keep us from growing up, don't they? They keep us from being what we came here to be. Well, she wasn't happy with the second boyfriend's answer. She wanted somebody to go with her. And she was walking away feeling like she was all alone in the world. And she heard a voice. And it was that first boyfriend. That first one that she didn't care much for. You know, he wasn't much to look at. And she just really didn't give him the time of day. She realized that, you know, all the beauty in her life, her lavish kingdoms and wonderful way of life in great part had been provided for by him. But she just didn't care too much for him. And she looked at him, and what she saw was this thing that was tattered, that was skinny, emaciated, because he had been giving it all away, because he had not ever really been fed well, okay? And he said to her, I will go with you. I will go with you past the veil of life into that experience of the other world. I came in with you, and I will never leave you. Well, those 4 boyfriends are very representative, metaphorical of different parts of our life. So let's unpack that just a little bit. That 4th boyfriend, the glamorous one, a lot of times, guys, that's our physical presence, okay? And think about it. We dress it up, we adorn it, we spend money on it, we get our hair done, we go out and buy clothes for it, and all that stuff. It's wonderful. And it's a wonderful thing to do that. But you know, the bottom line is, this ain't who we are, okay? This isn't what we are. And if you've ever looked in the mirror and you didn't like what you saw, or you've gone to the doctor and gotten a test that said, like that girl, not much we can do, or things aren't looking too good here, you know, you might have begun to experience that separateness, to recognize that this body thing is not all it is. At some point in time, we're going to lay it down. We're going to let it go. It is a transitory home for the spirit, really. Michael Beckwith calls it the body temple. And I like that because it recognizes that we are, but that we are also separate. And yet it recognizes the specialness of this. It's important, I think, to recognize that the way that we take care of our physical selves a lot of times is very representative of how we really feel about who we are, about ourselves. It's representative of our self-worth. And so it's important to clean it and primp it, and take care of it, to look at how we're feeding it, how we're exercising it, or lately it's kind of in my world been not exercising it. Somebody said to me the other day, "Why does your back hurt?" And I'm like, "Because I sit in the chair." Like twice as long as I need to, But those things are all important. Yet we recognize that we do it simply as a means of creating quality of life for ourselves while we're here. And that when we leave, this is going to go. We're going to go our separate ways from this body temple thing. So that's the fourth boyfriend. It's not going to be here forever. He wasn't. Then there's the third boyfriend. And this is all the stuff, And in our teaching, I love the stuff. One of the things that really attracted me to Science of Mind was that they had figured out a different mentality around that statement that is so often misinterpreted from the Bible, that says something like the root of all evil is money. No, excuse me, I think it's that the fear of lack is the root of all evil. Think about what you've done in your life out of the fear of not having. I've done some pretty, you don't want to know, pretty interesting things. Some of them were actually with boyfriends, because I didn't want to let go because I thought that was my security. Well, they're not. Nobody else ever can be. Those possessions, that stuff is wonderful to have. And in having it, what happens to our lives? They are enriched. They are expanded upon. When that happens, what happens with us? We have much more capacity to explore those creative parts of ourselves, those spiritual parts of ourselves. So having those possessions, having that wealth is a wonderful thing. It's great. It's also an amazing way in which we can pay it forward. We can gift. We can create goodness in the lives of other people. How many times have you given something, whether it was a word or a hug or something that you had that was financial or material in nature, that you bestowed upon something, and walking away from that experience, you felt so lifted up. It's an amazing thing to have that stuff. But the bottom line is, the day's going to come when we're going to have to let go of it. Those possessions, those wealth, that reputation that we have built up, we're going to leave all that. We're probably going to leave it to somebody else, okay? If you're like me, you might be going, "Oh, that's really interesting." What are they going to get out of this deal? And my kids don't ask that question. They're smart. They know better, So I'm like, it's all going to the cat, honey. But, so that's the third boyfriend. Great guy, great stuff. Wonderful to have, right? Wonderful to enjoy and relish in and share with others. Wonderful to show off, okay? My friend Howard Hanger, who's the minister at Jubilee Church in Asheville, during the summertime, he throws his house open a couple of times, and he invites everybody and anybody he knows. You don't even need to know Howard to go to his party. He does these things a couple of times, like a beautiful summer afternoon like today. He opens up the pool, he opens up his home, he lives in a way that is really enjoyable. And when he opens it up like that, he just gets to lavish that love, and that stuff on other people. It's wonderful, okay? But he gets it too, that all of this is for the giving, It makes me comfortable, and past that, the point of it is to go ahead and share it with somebody else, Now those others, the second boyfriend, represents those people, family, loved ones in our lives. Remember the second boyfriend? He said, I will walk with you to the very door, but past that I cannot go. He had really good boundaries. Aren't we blessed if we have family members who have good boundaries, or friends that have good boundaries? Those are the people that we with us in the middle of the night when we need somebody, when we need a hand. Those are the people who will come and sit with us as we move on into whatever that next experience is. But again, they can't do it with us. They're family and friends, and they too have their own path to follow, don't they? Now that first boyfriend, remember he was skinny. He didn't look like much. He was over there in the corner, kind of, doing his thing, waiting. But all the time he was gifting, he was giving, he was supporting. That first boyfriend is representative of the Spirit, okay? Of that thing that we really, truly are. And Ernest Holmes made a statement, and I don't know if it was original to Ernest or not. Some of you who have read Emerson or Troward or some of those lofty individuals might know better than I do. But Ernest talked about the fact that we were never born. He recognized that no matter what goes on, what leaves, what changes, when we pass away from this physical thing, something goes that cannot die. You cannot squash that eternal spark of God that is what we really are. That's the real stuff. Isn't it funny, though, that we live in a society, in a world that is so focused on other boyfriends, other things, okay, that we literally don't look sometimes at that spiritual part of who we are. There's even, in some class I took in school, they talked about the proof, trying to prove that there's no such thing as the Spirit. And the way that they did that was they weighed people. And they weighed you before you croaked, and they weighed you after you croaked, and what they found out was that there was virtually no difference. So there must not be a spirit. Because if there was something there, and now it's gone, it had to weigh something, right? I thought that was hysterical when I read it, And yet there's the flip side of the coin, too, that there are spiritual philosophies out there that teach that that is all there is. That's the only thing that's real, Well, we get it in this philosophy that it's all real. We get it that this body is worth taking care of. We get it that when we are living lavishly, that we have created wonderment and a wonderful set of surroundings for ourselves, a comfortable home, wonderful, the second boyfriend folks, okay, the good family, the good friends, the good spiritual community that enriches us, that we literally are seeing the divine in all of it. We also recognize that that spiritual thing, it's got to be fed. We can't just say it's all about, my body. It's all about my wealth. It's all about my friends and my family. It's got to be all about everything, doesn't it? It's got to be about that spiritual thing. And we have a teaching that looks at that stuff around us, those families, those friends, the experience of nature, and gets it that God is in all of that too. That God isn't just here, God is there. God is everywhere. What an amazing spiritual gift. When we recognize that, what do? We wake spirit up. We kind of begin to flick some drops of cool water into that, maybe like that first boyfriend, kind of tattered, somewhat unused or underused spiritual thing that we are. It's amazing. So how do we do that, guys? How do we lift spirit up and begin to really feel it within ourselves and around us? Well, it's pretty easy, This third Sunday is about spiritual practice, and we know in here, we're the ones who show up, right? We're the ones who get it, that the spiritual practice stuff is really a lot of what is going to carry us through the colder times, through the times when the fourth boyfriend has walked away, and the third boyfriend has walked away, and everybody else said, I can't help you either, honey, you're on your own, We get it that thing, that spiritual stuff is what's going to be there when it's time to make that journey into whatever it is We don't know. We get that, don't we? It's really phenomenal. How do we wake it up? Well, I had a friend years and years and years ago who walked the 12-step path. And he and I had gone to school together, and he was moving into the counseling field and was going to work with chemically dependent people. He was really, really knowledgeable. And we were talking one day, we're standing in a parking lot just shooting the you-know-what. And he said, I think the way you help people more than anything is by finding out what inspires a condition of awe within them. Because think about that. When you experience awe, doesn't that open you up on some level that wasn't open a few moments before that? It's really powerful. Yeah. And for years, I have never forgotten that. I don't know where Larry is today. I kind of have the feeling last time I saw him, he didn't recognize me, and that kind of told me that he probably wasn't doing too well, that he might have gone back to find God inside of a needle or a bottle or something again, Yeah. But how do we find that awe? Well, just think about this, guys, in the morning, every morning, and I subscribe to daily spiritual practice. In fact, if I don't get that, you really would probably be better off not engaging much, because I don't like me, okay? So, the chance of me liking anybody else is kind of like even lower, right? The spiritual practice thing in my world is getting the coffee, sitting down, I got a cat, I got a journal, I got something to read that's spiritually inviting and intriguing and inspiring, and I do that. But one of the things I do along with it is I look out my back door. And all of you pretty much have been to my home, okay? You know what that looks like. But when I look at my back door, what I see right now, this time of the year, is two things. Well, a whole lot, but two things, two big things. One is some kind of evergreen. It's a spruce or a fir or something. And of course, every year that I've lived in this home, it's gotten bigger. It's covered with millions and millions of needles, okay? The tree next to it, its sister, is either a maple or an oak. I'm not a real gardener. I'm not a real tree expert, so I kind of get those confused sometimes. But it too, over the years, has grown and grown and grown. And this time of the year, I can look at them and I can just go, think about it like this. Look at every needle on that fir tree, every leaf on that maple, that oak. Every bit of that was designed and came into form through the heart, literally, of God. Something wanted to see that there. And that dream became form and came into my backyard. What a gift. This week we've had a lot of rain. And I've been going, really, again? Okay. Actually, we might be past it. I'm, kind of like hoping and knowing. But with all those raindrops, I went to the Dillsboro drumming circle yesterday, and we had to get up under the eaves at the old train station because it was raining so hard. I mean, the skies just opened up. And yet it was wonderful to be a part of that experience and to get it, that the divine is glistening in every little raindrop, that falls. Every little piece of that is from God. Every little piece of cat fur that, I have 2 long-haired cats. What do you think I vacuum up off the floor 8 times a week? Cat fur. But every one of those little pieces of cat fur, was perfectly designed and born into form. That's the way God wanted it. That's the way it is. Yeah. Amazing stuff. Okay? Think about something like this. When we were there after the sun came back out and we started drumming again, we got back in our chairs and back on our drums and started making a big racket down there again. A couple of moms showed up, and between them they probably had a half a dozen kids that looked to be 2 or 3 years old. 3 or 4 of them were boys, and there was this heavy-duty little boy energy, and they were just on fire. They were running across the deck, and they would run up and bang on the drums, run up and grab a maraca and shake it. They were amazing. Have you ever sat with a child and handed them a crayon, okay, and watched what they do with it? In his writing, Ernest Holmes talks about the divine simply always expanding. It cannot stop creating. And when you get around a child that age, what you literally can almost feel is that creative mind expanding and expanding and expanding. It can't not. And it's so, I don't want to say that we do something with it as we age, but it's so close to the surface in a young child like that. They're so curious and so learning on a cosmic level, moment to moment. It's really amazing. What moves you into a state of awe? Something. Go out and look, if we don't have rain for the rest of the day, at the starry sky. You know, go, I'm sure Stacy, when you're out there camping on the side of the big mountains here in the western North Carolina, you go out and look at the stars and just marvel at all of that, the brilliance of all of that. Wow. You know, how did that ever come into form? I don't know. I don't think I want to know, because if I did know, if I had the scientific explanation, it might take away that awe. Yeah. So find a way to move yourself into a place of awe. Find a way to have fun. You know, I was watching these kids yesterday, and I'm not going to do it with the steel-toed boots. They're getting a little crampy. But the kids were doing things like skipping, okay, across the deck there at the old train station. And I just thought, what fun! You know, what fun! Go ahead and skip, okay? Instead of getting up and walking here and walking there and just trudging. Skip, okay? Or walk backwards. Or do something silly. Or if we're not having an electrical storm, fly a kite. You know, years ago, I was a little girl, probably no more than 6 or 8 years old, at Hatteras Island, and the son of some friends of my parents had a kite. And we got that kite up there. We were down on the beach. We got that kite up in the air. And what he did was he talked it. Okay, he goes, oh no, I'm going this way. Oh no, I'm going that way. And he had my little 6-year-old, 8-year-old self just rolling on the beach, laughing. Do something that is so silly, you just can't. I mean, start a food fight with somebody. Don't do it here, please, okay, because I'm going to have to clean the chairs. But, you know, I mean, you know, you might warn the person, first, let's step outside. I want to engage you in a, you know, pudding fight, okay, or something. How much fun would that be? I wouldn't want to clean it up, but, yeah. So, find something this week. Go out of here today. Look around your world. Look at the people that are around you. Look at the journeys and the experiences that they have had. Look at your own life from new eyes and recognize the amazing process of life unfolding, of God unfolding that you are. It is phenomenal, guys. Never in my wildest dreams could I have designed the amazing life that I have had. And if we step back from our lives and we take off maybe the attitude or the, I don't know what the word is, but the belief that we've done things wrong, the judgmentalness, perhaps it is, around the ways that we have behaved or the ways that we haven't behaved or whatever, when we begin to look at that, if someone else came up to you and they told you your life story and cloaked it in their face, their name, wouldn't you go, wow, what an amazing miracle you are. So go out of here today somehow and find the awe, find the fun, find the miracle, because it is always there and it is always for our taking. I love you. Thank you.